What's up, everybody? I'm waiting for my good friend Brett, and we're going to have a nice little conversation about Joe Biden and pretty much anything else that comes to mind. So, if you want to talk politics, let's go. Okay, where are you at, Brett? Oh, there you were. Bam. Just waiting for Brett, I'm sorry, from the Joe Biden campaign. So you're going to get some firsthand information. And there he is. Let me align myself.
There we go. Sorry about the confusion. I was started and then you started, but we're here.
But now we good.
That's right. We're all good. So, well, thanks so much for doing this, Mark. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I think what we wanted to do, Mark, was just chat a little bit today about, the Vice President, Senator Harris, why they're the right choice for small business owners, entrepreneurs, the economy. I think we often hear, I'm a Republican, the economy is where the Republicans are. But I think, in this election, it couldn't be more clear that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the right choice for those reasons. So I just wanted to hear a little bit from you about the way that you're thinking about the election. But most importantly, country's just been devastated by COVID-19. And, I've been working at the intersection of policy and politics with entrepreneurs for a decade. I've never seen anything like this. What would you say, Mark, to entrepreneurs and small business owners out there who are trying to make it right now?
Well, first let me give you a quote from Vice President Biden. I had the pleasure of spending some time with him at an entrepreneurship seminar and symposium about 5 years ago. And we got to talk, and actually all the sharks from Shark Tank were there. And one of the things that he said that I've used over and over and over again, I don't always give him credit because it's such a good quote, is that he said the one thing that he's learned that separates the United States of America from every other country in the world is our entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
Our spirit of accomplishment. The idea that we're always out there looking to create new businesses and just, create new technologies. You don't see that around the world. That is very much unique to the United States of America. And Joe Biden understands that. So as an entrepreneur, and to my fellow entrepreneurs out there, you have to realize that Joe is going to be very supportive of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial endeavors, and he always has been from the time he started his own law firm. And I'll throw out a couple little tidbits for you. During the Obama administration, one of the things that I was a huge proponent of that he also was very supportive of, for a lot of entrepreneurs that are in various apprenticeships or various jobs, like washing hair, there are so many licenses that are required in order to be a startup. It's crazy. In some states, you need to wash hair for like 2,000 hours in order to be an official hair washer. The salon, there are just all these licensing requirements that hold back entrepreneurs. We're not talking about tech entrepreneurs. We're talking about plumbers. We're talking about electricians. We're talking about all these jobs.
Main Street entrepreneurs, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because, when people talk about the decline of entrepreneurship, that's really what they're referring to. Right. Did you go and learn how to be a stylist and want to cut hair? That's great. You need to be trained, but you don't need to be an apprentice for an abnormal amount of time. And so Joe Biden is so supportive of the smallest of small entrepreneurs that are looking to start up out of their homes, out of small offices, out of small locations, whatever it may be. And that's so critically important. That's not something you've heard Donald Trump talk about at all. And just the fact that I met Joe through an entrepreneurship symposium is something that was unique to Joe that we haven't seen in almost 4 years from this administration. So that's part one. Part two, in terms of some of the other things, you always have to realize that without leadership, there's instability. And instability is the worst thing that can happen to a business. If you can't open the doors in your community, whether it's because of instability, civil unrest, or COVID, it doesn't matter how great an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter how many customers you may want or have, because they can't come see you. And just the way that Donald Trump has just botched so completely the response to COVID has crushed hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of businesses. And so until we come up with leadership,
I think the number is 1 in 6 businesses may have already permanently closed due to
I've
COVID.
heard the same thing, right? So unless we have a response, an organized response to COVID, you're going to continue to see businesses go out of business. And being an organized response, we can discuss a mask mandate or not. I'm not a fan of mandates. I'm more a fan of encouraging. But what's really important is having standards and protocols that businesses can use to open, because not only do you have to protect your customers, you have to protect your employees as well. No business can be efficient if people are afraid to go to work, if people are afraid of what their customers might do because they're being unsafe. That's something that Joe Biden has top of his list that is critical to businesses of all sizes.
And I think the vice president's been really clear. His goal is to get this economy up and going again. And, no one should understand any otherwise. I do want to talk about your views sort of on the global perspective, because I think, Joe Biden has been the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, the vice president. He's well known around the world. And I think one of the things that I hear from business owners who want to do, work across the globe, they're saying, do people want to work with America anymore? And I think, 4 more years of Trump makes me really nervous for people who want to be able to ship their goods and services abroad or do business abroad. And we know that so many of America's customers live outside of our country. And it's such a huge way that small business and entrepreneurs grow their business. And I know that you do work all over the world. I mean, what are you hearing from world leaders? Is that part of the reason you're supporting Joe?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I talk to somebody overseas, the first question is, what the hell is going on over there? And I'm not the only one to hear that. It's, are you guys going to get your act together so we can do business the way that's mutually beneficial to all of us? Because of that uncertainty. And look, with COVID, we're doing a lot more by Zoom, internationally, globally, et cetera. But at some point, you got to go visit your customers, and other countries won't even let us in until we have a response to COVID, so people trust that Americans aren't going to be sick when we get on a plane and go to whatever country we're trying to visit. We're not going to be able to do business. And so the ability for other countries to feel safe around Americans, how crazy does that even sound, right? To feel that Americans are sane in how we do business. We always talk about the lack of rule of law from other countries as a reason to not potentially do business, or why it's difficult to do business. Now people are having the same questions about us, and Joe Biden changes that. Joe understands that in order to do business globally, we have to be partners. I mean, that's the foundation of any good business, being able to have a strong business relationship with people. And there's going to be times when you're adversarial, and you have to be a leader, and you have to be authentic, and you have to communicate, because that's the only way problems are overcome. That's the antithesis of Donald Trump.
Well, look, small business owners and entrepreneurs know that. They do that every day, right? Like, maybe it's not always on a global scale, but every day those are the same skills that are required to run a business.
Yeah, and look, and that's not to say that we don't want to try to take as much business as we can, say, in manufacturing in Southeast Asia. Of course we do. We want, we can bring half, if not more, of global manufacturing back to this country, but it takes a focus on technology. Artificial intelligence, robotics, computer vision. These are things that we can excel at and historically have excelled at. And when Biden left office with President Obama, there was a great AI program that was in place, and a great study that they put out, and it was basically abandoned. And so we're falling behind. Right now, we're still the leaders in AI, but we're fourth in robotics and falling further behind China. If we're going to bring back manufacturing, we not only need that entrepreneurial spirit that we have in this country, but we need a cohesive program of research and development that allows us to get ahead, and relationships with countries around the world that allows us to do their manufacturing. Because once we get good under Joe Biden, we want to be able to do business with them.
That makes sense. Mark, I wanted to come back domestic just real quick, because you've talked a lot about, and I had the opportunity to hear you last week with Maya Harris talk a little bit about the importance of healthcare. And I think, healthcare is on the ballot in so many ways. And, my background, actually, I got started working on the Affordable Care Act, and the vice president is very clear. We have to build on the Affordable Care Act, protect Medicare and Medicaid. But I think what I don't hear people talk a lot about is how much the Affordable Care Act has spurred entrepreneurship, right? You're no longer tied to a large employer. You're able to go out there and start your own business for the first time. And here we are, days away from an election where healthcare is on the ballot. We now have a Supreme Court where healthcare could be taken away. And I think people, we're hearing a lot about, sort of the partisan side, but what we're not hearing is like, what could the impact of this be on small business and entrepreneurship? I'm just wondering if you have a perspective.
So a couple things there. One, today's the first day for open enrollment. Yep. So if you don't have insurance because you lost your job for any reason, right? You don't have you're off of COBRA, whatever it may be, go to healthcare.gov and sign up. Two, if you're in Georgia, they took healthcare.gov off of their Georgia website today. And so if you're voting in Georgia, make that part of your voting decision, because that's just craziness. But to answer your question, Rhett, the one time as a startup entrepreneur where you're broke, you're suffering, you have no money coming in, that the government will give you assistance as an entrepreneur, the one time is with your health care. Because look, I've been there. When I got fired from a job, I started my first company, Micro Solution. I'm living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. I had no health care. See my pinkies, right? So that's from sports and playing basketball. I had no insurance, no nothing. Had this been today and I started Micro Solutions, I could go to healthcare.gov for open enrollment and look at the various metal programs and choose a subsidized program, because I had no income whatsoever. I worked as a bartender part-time, but now I could still have a part-time job depending on how much money I was making. My subsidy would be relevant. And then I could go and start my company. Having the ACA available to startup entrepreneurs is critical. It's literally funding, it's the underpinning of so many tiny startups. So if you lost your job and you don't have health insurance, you typically are going to be in a position where you're just going to try to take anything that you can. But now with the ACA and the subsidies, you truly can create your own business, knowing that you're going to get almost fully subsidized healthcare insurance program.
Well, and I know it's a pride of sort of a big moment for a lot of small businesses when they get to that point. They're able to offer health insurance for their employees for the first time, right? And in addition to sort of the entrepreneurial side, the Affordable Care Act provides lots of new opportunities for small employers. And so I think it's just healthcare is important. It's so critical to all of us, but folks don't attach it enough to sort of this idea of small business and entrepreneurs. So I just wanted to chat upon that a little bit. I also wanted to hear your thoughts sort of on this interesting moment. I was at an event with the vice president last night. He was talking about how he's going to be the president for everyone. And I think one of the things that's just been so difficult about the last few years for me is sort of this red states and blue states. And, Joe Biden has just, his whole career has shown how he's been able to work across the aisle. And, listen, when you're in business, you compromise, you strike deals. Donald Trump talks about being the ultimate deal maker. I haven't seen him make a good deal, but like the vice president has been making deals with people who don't necessarily see the world 100% the way that he does, but he finds a way to compromise. He finds a way to work with everyone. And I wondered, what your thoughts are on that from his perspective and why business leaders should think about that.
So first of all, no deal can ever happen unless you get everybody to the table. Unless everybody's sitting around the table communicating, nothing ever gets done. And that's the first problem with Donald Trump. You've got Trump supporters and everybody else is ignorable, right?
Yep.
He just ignores them, and it's as if we don't even exist. That's not Joe Biden. To your point, Rhett, historically, he's always been someone who can work on a bipartisan basis. But in my experiences with him, he's willing to sit and listen and talk. And most importantly, he wants to bring the best players to the table, right? He doesn't just want to say, okay, I'm going to bring in the Democrats and the Republicans, but it's also, let's get this committee involved. Let's get that committee involved. Let's bring the best minds so that we can solve this the right way. What it comes down to is Joe Biden wants to do what's best for all citizens of this country. Right? And that's something we haven't seen in almost 4 years. And we need that change because there's so much divisiveness going on right now. And it's not just red versus blue, it's within individual families. I mean, we need someone to set an example that it's okay to talk to people you would disagree with politically. You don't have to call them names. You don't have to call them out.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, the one thing I'm most looking forward to with Joe Biden is he truly wants the people that he puts around him to be experts, to be good at what they do. It'll be so nice to hear a well thought out premise for anything at all, because we haven't seen that in so long. We don't need, sycophants who are just kissing up to Donald Trump. I call him Donnie Soprano. If you watch The Sopranos, if you didn't, while you were getting along with Tony Soprano, he was your best friend. But the minute you weren't loyal, he whacked you, right?
Yeah.
Seen from this president, he whacks anybody that isn't loyal or disagrees with him. That's not Joe's goal. Joe's test is not loyalty. Joe's test is, what can you do for the American people? What can we do to make this country stronger?
Well, listen, and you want a leader who's, reading their briefing materials, who is taking the advice of experts, right? And I think, when you run a large company, it's the same thing. You have to depend on the people who help you run your company. And we know Joe Biden will do that. I wanted to get your thought on, what should business leaders be doing this election season? I think, we often hear like businesses, owners should stay out of, these policy conversations. I think we're seeing an increasing interest in businesses speaking out. But what's your advice for business owners who are thinking about weighing in this election? How should they do so? How should they talk to their employees, and how are they viewed by their communities? I mean, you are so well known in Dallas. I loved the video of you down at your early voting. It was amazing. Should we be seeing more CEOs and more business owners doing things like this?
Well, the whole point is every CEO has got to make their own choice.
Yep.
That's the beauty of this country. You get to decide. For the longest time, I was apolitical. You did not see me involved in politics at all. So if you're just focused on your business, your company, that's okay. Mm-hmm. But you need to be aware of what's going on, right? And you also have to be aware of what's important to your employees, because they're going to have different perspectives and different interests than you are. And I try to be as encouraging as possible. Just participate, because I don't get to all this that I have. I am the luckiest SOB in the world. But none of this comes without the greatness of this country.
Right.
I think I owe something back. And being able to participate, being able to voice my opinion is not something just for somebody to the wealthy. It's a voice that everybody should have the opportunity to have. And the reality, because we've had so much disruption, because we've had so much uncertainty, the louder the voices from people who are working on the front lines, the louder the voices a CEO enables his people who are being paid by the hour to participate, the louder he allows them to be, or she allows them to be, the stronger this country becomes. Because you can never take this for granted. You can never take the wonders of this country for granted. And the only way to continue it is to participate.
I think that's right. So what would you say to folks who are still on the fence, right? We're one day away from what is the most important election of our lifetime. I think, what we decide tomorrow and what we know maybe in the next few days, is going to set us on a trajectory. And so, for folks who are on the fence, who are thinking, well, this is the decision I made in 2016, the economy is my most important issue. What would you say to those voters?
I'd say, if the economy is your most important issue, COVID is the first problem that needs to be solved. Mm-hmm. Period, end of story. And there's only one candidate that's even offering a solution, committing to make a change, and that's Joe Biden. The incumbent, thinks there's no problem. So if you're a business person, just look at your own business. Look what's happening. Look, there's some businesses that have grown as, if you have an online component or you pivoted online, your business may be doing very well. But you want a candidate, you want a president that understands what's going on and understands all the things that can impact all business. Because right now, let me just put it a different way. You want a candidate who doesn't bury their head in the sand and lie to you. How can anybody vote for somebody who says we've rounded the corner? There is no problem. Yep. Put somebody in charge like Scott Atlas, who is just going on Russian television talking about nonsense, right? When our people's health's at stake. Here's the other thing. You know what? People like that, so you're better off, da-da-da. No. Who would you trust with your family's life on the line? If you had to sit in a room and ask one person, if you had to sit in a room in a hospital and you had your choice of asking Donald Trump or Joe Biden for the best way to deal with COVID in your family, or an illness in your family, or to ask for help for your family, who would you rather be talking to, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? Who's going to give you an honest answer, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? There's no decision. It's Joe Biden. I mean, we all put our lives on the line when we walk out of a house today because of Donald Trump's response to, or lack of response to COVID. Any business person has got to see that the only way business can continue to grow is by dealing with the response to COVID in a manner that's trusted. Because let's take it one step further. When we get to a vaccine, who are you going to trust? When they say, you know what, it's time to take the vaccine. I'm going to do it. You should do it. I'm encouraging my family to do it. Who are you going to believe and trust? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? It's a no-brainer. And that's why if you're on the fence, this is and it's a business decision for you. It's all about COVID. That is what is so important to all of us. And we need somebody who can lead, who's honest, who's authentic, who deals with scientists and believes in science and understands, has things changed, how to adapt, who likes to learn, who reads what's in front of them. How can you offer somebody any type of support if you won't even read information in order to provide the right answer? I wouldn't hire Donald Trump. I would hire Joe Biden in a heartbeat.
And Mark, I mean, you're talking to, I want to turn for a moment into voting, which is the real reason that we're going to get to this as we sort of close down. But I mean, as you're talking to other business leaders, what are you hearing from them? And, I had the pleasure of hearing you chat with Daniel Lebetsky, the CEO of Kind, the other day. And I just, even for him, he was saying, I've been an independent all my life. I lean a little bit to the right, but this election is so critical. He was making arguments not only around the economy, but around democracy, being an immigrant to this country, and just sort of what this country's given to him. And you've talked about this a little bit. So many people who've come to America and experienced the American dream. And I feel like we don't want to, and we don't have to give that up. But this election is so critical. And so I just, what are you hearing from other business owners and entrepreneurs about that as well?
Look, I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat, right? And I talked to a lot of other entrepreneurs and investor in over 250 companies. And so I talked to a lot of people. They want sanity. They want to just be able to do their job. They want to be able to go home at night and not worry about what's going to happen next, not worry about whether somebody thinks ending racism is good or bad. We need that continuity, that ability to get truth of information from our leadership. That's what people are saying. Sure, there's a small component that's like, I know a couple of people that would say, I don't care if you drop a nuclear bomb next door, as long as you lower my taxes, I'm happy, right? There's always going to be some people like that. I don't understand it, but I get it. But everybody else is, look, we need there to be consistency. We need there to be the ability not to hold our breath every night to wonder what's going to be tweeted or what executive order he's going to make up that he doesn't tell anybody else. And we also need to know that when it comes to our adversaries, they're not just trying to hack the election. They're trying to hack into our businesses. And so there is no organized approach to preventing that on the corporate side. Look what's happened with hospitals. We've seen multiple hospitals have malware installed. Donald Trump hasn't addressed it at all. Here we are in the middle of a pandemic where you've got some of these hospitals in hot areas where they're just freaking out, just trying to keep up with things. And we have not heard a word from the administration or the White House, let alone any specifics to try to help them. That's just wrong. And we can't afford to have that. That undermines our ability to do business at all levels.
So we've talked a lot about business and what this means for the community. I want to thank you, for doing this, but I would be like, is this personal for you? Why have you made a commitment to do this event and some other events that you've done? And what, as an independent, what took you off sort of the sidelines to say, I need to get engaged in the next few days here?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rhett. So I was always apolitical, like I mentioned earlier. Literally, I avoided politics at all costs, focused on businesses. And then when Donald Trump first announced, I was like, this is cool. right? He's not typical, thinking there's no chance on God's green earth he has to win, right? I've known Donald Trump for 20 years. He is who he says he is, right? He's an awful business person that is incapable, literally one of the dumbest business people I've ever met. And I mean that literally, not figuratively. And so when he won, that was a problem. And, okay, we've managed to a certain extent to deal with it, even though it's been horrific. But now here we are again. And 4 years ago, I thought, you know what? People aren't going to get behind him anymore. They're going to see who he really is. Unfortunately, some people don't care, and they see who he is. And I have conversations with people, and I'm like, look, do you not remember Trump University, where he ripped off thousands of hardworking Americans for $25,000 plus each on average?
Well, and all the small business contractors he didn't pay from his
Yeah,
hotel.
exactly.
I mean,
a friend of mine from Shark Tank, Barbara Corcoran, did a deal with him. And she tells the story all the time. And she talks about how he begged her to help him sell a property. And when she sold it, he refused to pay the commission. And she had to sue him and won. And she was just one of thousands who have done the same thing. Let me just tell you something. I'm blessed. I'm very wealthy. I think the number of people I've sued personally in my entire career, zero. Zero.
because who wants to do that unless you absolutely have to, right? I mean,
yeah, look, it's not that it doesn't happen,
right.
But at the same time, that's who Donald Trump is, and so when it came time to say, I can't let this happen again. And I've known Joe, right? I know he's so supportive of business. And, I know this is a very divisive time, and it's all about controlling the narrative. And so with the platform I have, I really wanted people to know just how incapable Donald Trump is. And I want to say it again. The hardworking Americans he ripped off with Trump University, the people whose money he took from Trump Foundation that had to be shut down, the people he lied to about Trump Soho, where he inflated the sales rate and the pricing of apartments and almost got indicted. You want to talk about almost being indicted? Almost got indicted by the SDNY. The business he did with the Iranians laundering money, Tajikistan, I think it may have been, the business he's done overseas with his hotels in the Philippines, where there was money laundering and the owner had to come in. That's who our president is. It is incredible.
Well, I woke up this morning and, they were saying on the news, how many lawyers he's dispatching because he, wants to get people's votes thrown out. I mean, the ability. And so I want to get your thoughts on that. I want to give you a chance to make your final pitch. Before we do that, just because I want to be respectful for your time, I want to remind folks that if you, are unsure about your voting status or anything, you can visit iwillvote.com. We're also encouraging folks to text 30330 to BIZ, B-I-Z, which is our BIZ hashtag handle. We've done so much amazing business work on this campaign. But, Mark, as you turn on the news this morning, you heard that. What were you thinking? And I think just, to wrap us up, like, what is your closing case or your pitch for Joe Biden, and what should folks be thinking tomorrow as they head to the polls?
Here in Texas, they're trying to throw out ballots out of Harris County, and when you actually look in to see who filed the suits, it's QAnon followers, it's crazy people. Literally, there's a whole group of conspiracy theorists, this QAnon group, who have undermined a lot of the extremes of the Republican Party, but our president fully supports and will not denounce. That tells you all you need to know. Is this the country we want? Where we go from one conspiracy theory to the next, where we go from one X-Files mystery to the next, because our president doesn't want to deal with reality or facts or data or science. It's every single day is like another episode of the X-Files. It's crazy. Look, you don't have to agree with everything Joe Biden does. You don't have to, respect everything that Joe Biden, his legislative history. But what is, I think, critically important for this country is a sense of normalcy, where we have leadership And we have a president who not only is a leader, but who's authentic, who's compassionate, who's empathetic, who talks to everybody, will sit down at the table and be forceful and strong, but also recognize that we have a mission as Americans within the global economy. We want a president who recognizes that the days of trickle down are dead. We need someone who understands that the people who are working and getting paid by the hour are the backbone of this country. And we need to respect them. We need to respect their jobs. We need to respect who they are. And that is how we are going to lift this country, not only economically, but back to the point where we can all talk to each other again. Okay. That's who Joe Biden is. That's why I'm voting for Joe Biden.
Well, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. The vice president, is committed to restoring our global leadership. He's the right choice for not only working families, but small business owners and entrepreneurs. I think most importantly, he's going to show real leadership and get this COVID-19 behind us. And as you've illustrated, business needs a partner in the government. The two have to work together, and we need real leadership at the helm to do that. So I want to remind folks to visit iwillvote.com. Text us as well at 30330. You can text BIZ. Mark, anything you want to say before we head out about getting people out to Texas, specifically to your center to vote?
Yeah, well, actually, we're done now. The early voting is done, not till tomorrow. Hopefully you go out here. I'm going to tell you something that, if you have friends that say, you know what, particularly young friends, Gen Zers, just turned 18, just eligible to vote, get them out there. I think, one thing that people haven't considered, particularly young people, everybody's got a brand on social media for Gen Z. You're on TikTok, you're on Instagram like this, you're on Facebook, you're on Snapchat, etc. And you want people to know that you're voting. Gen Z is so socially conscious. Gen Z is so aware of trying to impact the climate, the world, the economy. By voting, you get to stand up as an American and say, I'm proud to be an American. So, I expect everybody who's on this call to vote, but those people that that may not vote, this is your chance to get them out and vote tomorrow because it's that important.
Right. And that reach out is super important. A lot of folks don't think, but make that call, make that text.
Make that call.
Make that plan. So, hey everyone, this is Rep Buttle. I'm Joe Biden's National Business Advisor, and Mark Cuban and I just finished an amazing conversation about why Joe's good for the economy, why he's good for business. But most importantly, we need you all to get to the polls. So visit iwillvote.com, make a plan, get out there and vote. Mark, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Rhett. Everybody vote. Let's go, Joe Biden.
We'll talk soon, everyone. Bye-bye.